All right, Rob, let's stick with baseball because another certain Hall of Famer, and I know youngsters who just saw him in Anaheim might be like, what? But he's a clear-cut Hall of Famer. Albert Pujols cut today. He wants to play, but Rob, is anybody picking him up?
Yes. You know what?
I'm going to give you
the destination. His old manager from St. Louis is where, Chris? Tony La Russa's with the White Sox. He's the manager. Albert Pujols, even though that's a young team with a lot of swag, Tim Anderson, he could wind up there in the clubhouse for these young guys. I'm telling you, the same way that Tim Tebow might wind up in Jacksonville, Albert Pujols could wind up. I'm just saying
really
it could wind up.
Is that out there, or you just kind of throwing it out?
I'm just throwing it out from just because La Russa's
yeah, I mean, if
there.
you want a professional in the clubhouse, and
you know what I mean?
Pujols
Right.
is saying he wants to play.
He's not a bad guy.
Right. And he's saying he wants to play. So if he can bring that, I got no problem with that. But I don't expect to see him at the plate much. Because he doesn't have much left. And it's not, he was what, 41
He's had
years
an
old?
unbelievable career.
Right.
The guy's a Hall of Famer. In St. Louis, Chris, he was a machine,
Literally. That was his nickname, the machine, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So, all right. So he's cut today. But
Chris
I
says
think
he's cut, not released.
Released. I mean, jettisoned.
Designated for assignment, Chris. He was designated for assignment.
I'm keeping it real, man. I'm keeping it real. But here's the thing, Rob, and I feel strange about Pujols. You heard me just moments ago. Undoubtedly a Hall of Famer. I mean, he almost hit 700 home runs. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about his Hall of Fame credentials.
Unmatched.
And he almost batted 300 for his career. So that's without question. But, and he was better at his sport than Vince Carter was it in the NBA. So it's a little bit different, but it's like you and I have always talked about Vince Carter, who was, in my book, the greatest game dunker of all time, and who is probably going to be a Hall of Famer. But he did play so many years as a role player when he was past his prime that you kind of forgot about how great he was. And I got to be honest, with Pujols, I kind of feel the same way, Rob.
Oh, I mean,
this dude was awesome and silly. He was mediocre in Anaheim. That's what he was, Rob. I mean, is that up for debate?
Mediocre. I mean, he had a couple of good years, Chris, he had a couple. I'm just saying, but for the most part, when you have a 10-year contract,
probably
at the
better
end,
than mediocre, but he wasn't.
It's a little bit better, but he wasn't the guy that he was in St. Louis,
right?
And you got to remember, and I blame St. Louis a little bit for this, Chris. I do, because they didn't want to pay him. Like they didn't really want to. People want to feel loved. Like
wait, you said you blame St. Louis? Okay,
yeah, I do.
Well, hold on. So you think it would have been different if he would have been in St. Louis?
I'm just saying. Had he stayed there and gotten paid, I don't think we would look at him the same way because he went to Anaheim, he went to the Angels, and it really didn't work out. I think of it of not working out, right? Don't you think of that?
Oh, yeah,
and I think if he would have stayed in St. Louis, he would have aged gracefully, would have had those couple more big years. You would have thought of him as an all-time Cardinal, and it probably would have been a safer landing, softer landing for him. You look at Albert Pujols now and you think, boy, did he make a mistake leaving the Cardinals.
Absolutely.
Am I right? That's what people think.
Absolutely.
I don't.
I'm with you. There's no doubt that had he stayed, let's say he stayed in St. Louis and did the exact same thing he did in Anaheim, right? Never hit 300 again. And, he had some big home run years here and there, but, was clearly not what he used to be. I agree with you that it wouldn't have looked this bad just because he had already won a couple World Series and, MVPs and all that. However, here's the one thing I'll say, Rob. In baseball, now in football, we got an example, Le'Veon Bell. You left Pittsburgh where you were a Hall of Famer. He was headed to the Hall of Fame probably. And you go to the Jets and you fall off completely. We can name other players that's happened to. Basketball, there's obviously a LeBron, a Durant, Kyrie. Certain guys can go anywhere and they're going to be the man. But there's a level of star in the NBA, Rob, that if they go to the wrong place, it won't be the same because the system, the coach, whatever.
I'll give you one guy right off the bat.
In basketball?
Yep. Draymond Green. If he went to another team, Chris,
no doubt.
to go get paid, he would not play the same way.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying he'd be a bum or anything. Would you agree with me? Like he would.
Totally.
That
and
system
I think
fits him.
Draymond knew that when he stayed in Golden State. I think because remember Detroit was going after him big time. He if you had paid him max money, brought him in to be your guy, you would have been sorely disappointed because he's not a scorer and he needs other scores so he can do the other stuff. That's a good one. But here's what I'll say, Rob. In baseball, I get it if you leave a winning franchise, which obviously St. Louis is and was.
Right. Still is. Right. They win.
Right. Winning franchise and you go play somewhere that doesn't win, it looks like an L. No matter how well you play, because now you're not in the spotlight as much and you're not in the postseason, so on and so forth. But I will say that, to me, there's no excuse in baseball. If you go to another team, you may not win, but you should still be able to hit the ball like you always did. He was only 30 when he went to Anaheim. Or 31.
I know. He wasn't an old man yet. And he had some. Right. The other thing, too, Chris, is who's batting around you. Don't forget, sometimes when teams do that, a bad team, and I would call the Angels not a bad team, but a mediocre team. And Trout wasn't there from day one. If you don't have guys batting around you and you're the big bat, I'm not going to throw you anything to hit. It's happened to other guys where they send them to a team.
Oh, yeah.
And then they don't perform because they're not going to get pitched to. And he came from a lineup that was 4 deep, right? And you can't pitch around them. You got to pick your poison. And I'm going to get fastballs because you can't walk me. There's a guy hitting behind me. So that's a problem.
Right.
But in this case, we saw, and you brought this up in our pre-show meeting, Robinson Cano, who got offered a ton of money, Chris, to leave New York, where he was headed for the Hall of Fame with the Yankees, to go play in Seattle, where people didn't get to watch him play. He still put up good numbers. He's been derailed because of the steroids and all that. But he's another guy who took the money and left a situation where he probably should have played his whole career with the Yankees.
Right. And look, he did get so much more money. It's kind of hard to blame him. Right. But you're right. He fell off the map. And he still was playing pretty well. But to your point, he fell off the map. I'm going to throw another one at you, Rob. And we're not trying to do this with New York guys, but Jose Reyes.
Yep.
Jose Reyes was a 4-time All-Star with the Mets. Left and never made another All-Star team.
Yep. He was another guy. He was a big star in New York. They loved him.
Never made another All-Star team. And again, had some solid seasons.
But wasn't a star.
But and we'll see if that happens. Now obviously in New York, they're wondering, is that going to happen with Francisco Lindor?
Right. So, and you know what? He could be, but, he left Cleveland for the big money, right? Even though the Mets aren't a bad team or anything, but he could wind up where things don't work out, Chris, and you could look at him. But we'd be interested to hear from everybody out there listening, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, is Pujols he seems like a great example of the grass is not always greener on the other side. Another guy in basketball, Rob, LaMarcus Aldridge.
Yep.
Went to Spurs. It wasn't terrible for him in San Antonio, but,
But it wasn't the same. It was like if I were to look at that situation, I would say an L.
Yeah, exactly. He should have stayed put. He would have had Dame Lillard. And, I don't think they would have won a championship, but they would have been better. So, yeah,